Okay, we are all set to go. Good evening, everyone, and I'm very, very happy that all of you have come before 7 p.m. So we are starting dot on time, and this is being streamed live on Facebook, and it's also getting recorded on the Zoom, and then this will be available on our YouTube channel. So Signia Healthcare is very, extremely happy and grateful to welcome Ms. Rita Gangwani. The topic for today is beauty and nursing being resilient. Now, this is part of our month long activities that we are going to have on the well being of nurses. So, there'll be more activities that is going to happen in number also. So, Ms. Rita is the first one to integrate this. And before I even say anything more, I will just show you one more slide that when you go to Google and put her name, Miss Rita Gangwani, this is what I got today. So you can see that she is with Manushi Chiller, Miss World. She's a pageant coach, beauty pageant. So I'm not going to divulge more about her. So I'm going to stop sharing here and I'm going to request Miss Rita to come on the video and then let me give her a formal welcome. Good evening, Miss Rita. Is it okay if I call you Rita?
Absolutely, ma'am. Good
Okay,
evening, everyone.
good evening. So, a very, very warm welcome to Miss Rita. I'm going to look at my paper because her description is so long. So, let's start with Madam Rita. She is Lieutenant Rita Gangwani, retired from the army. So, now all of you understand that. Why ma'am is on on our platform because she's a nurse. So that's why I invited her to this program, and I am so excited that for the first time we have someone who had been a nurse and who have now traveled a totally different path. So if I have to look at her, I know that she's popularly known as the Queen Maker and is a President of India awardee honored by World Book of Records, and she's personality development coach. As also, she has been on TV and she works with film stars. And I also know that you have actually acted in a couple of movies. Also, I was trying to find some clips today, but I could not. And she's on the board of Miss Bhutan, Supermodel Nepal, Miss India, Mrs. India, Miss India, America, many more as mentor. May I request everyone to keep their mic muted, please, so that everybody can hear? Ringsen, Lamo, please keep yourself muted. Thank you. And we'll ask Rita how she was got into the book of world records. And so many awards. I was trying to count them, and I'm just going to read a couple of them. Global Peace Ambassador, though she is in pageant, beauty pageant preparations. There is Global Peace Ambassador, Women on Top Award, Jewel of India, Himachal Gaurav Saman, and I think Rita belongs to Himachal Pradesh, if I am not mistaken. And she was the best cadet with President Gold Medal when she was in the army. And yes, she has authored a book on beauty pageants Green Room, which is endorsed none other than Miss Universe Sushmita Sen. So, ma'am is showing the book. Uh, so nice, so much to talk about you, and I am so proud to know that you had been a nurse. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you,
So,
ma'am.
Rita, just very warm welcome on behalf of Signia Healthcare and all of us present here. Thank you so much for taking time for being with us. Okay. So this is going to be, and she has also starred in two movies, Delhi in a Day and Bolly web series called Sach Kya Hai. अब ये दोनों movies मुझे ढूंढना पड़ेगा देखने के लिए because now that I know you are there, I have to go and find it. So this is going to be a little bit of a chat that we are going to have, primarily focusing on as nurses we are also going through through many different roles in her life. And right now, she's not stopping. She has become unstoppable. So she's continuing to do various different things, and she has got a lot of philanthropic activities that she undertakes. So we are going to understand from a person who has done so much to see that what can we learn from her. Thank you so much, Rita. Once again, a very warm welcome. And today I was watching your TEDx show, and there you started by saying that you have been a prisoner. So that's a very interesting thing, that you have been a prisoner, and then you went to army, then you came out, then now you are preparing beauty pageant ladies, and you have so many other things that you are doing. So let me stop talking, and I'm going to invite you to share with us that what is this journey all about? And from that journey, what is it that you would like to share with the nurses? Because all the audience who are here, they are all nurses. So they are here to learn from you. And we have also young nursing students who are here. So that's your audience. And please, we are all ears. We want to hear from you. What is it that we can take from you? And thank you so much. And one thing that I have noticed about Rita is that she's so humble. She has achieved so much. She did not take, I think she did not take a more than my message for her to say that date and time, and then she said yes. And for that, thank you so much, Rita. Now, floor is all yours. Please go ahead and think that this is a Signia X talk. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, ma'am. And it's a great honor to be speaking to my fellow sisters. Though it's been a long time, but they say you can take a person out of nursing, but you cannot take nursing out of a person. So even though I'm not an active nurse anymore, but the nursing stays with me, and I think I have earned that reputation in the family that anybody is sick, they call for me to take their BP or to take their, thermometer, this temperature and stuff like that. So I'm still as good a nurse, yes, but I'm a little obsolete kind of a nurse because I have not upgraded myself to the present things. Because when I go to hospitals, I see a lot of new things have come up, and sometimes I wish I knew all those little things, because I still remember using those syringes where we had to boil them, and those needles we had to boil them and make gauges with hand and all that obsolete stuff. But now when I see the change, I really feel that we have come a long way. So once again, ma'am, thank you very much for having me on this platform. You said that I was a prisoner. Yes, I was a prisoner. And a lot of people wonder what kind of a prison. I will tell you, most of us are prisoners. Most of us are prisoners. We don't even realize it, but individually, somewhere or the other, we are the prisoners. And I was a prisoner of my own thoughts. A prisoner of my own thoughts. I'm not very tall. I'm just 4 feet, say about 8.5 to 9 inches. And because I was short, everybody used to look down upon me. I used to get bullied from everywhere. People used to call me Tengu. They used to call me Bonnie, all those names you call. And all my friends were tall, being from Himachal. Everybody was tall, and I was very short. And I used to stand first in the line. And when I was first in the line at that age, I always thought that because I'm cute, that's why I was made to stand first in the line, because I didn't understand there's something called height, and heredity plays an important role on that. But as I started growing, in my studies in seventh or eighth, it actually became very apparent because everybody became taller than me, and I remained as short as I was. And I had big dreams right from my childhood. I wanted to get into the glamour world. So I wanted to be a Miss India, I wanted to be a model, I wanted to be an actress. But whenever I used to talk about these things, people used to laugh at me. And I still remember when I was in school, one of my teachers, when I went for an audition for my final school play, and she said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Ma'am, I have come here to give the audition for the leading lady." She laughed at me in front of everyone and said, "Just look at her, these 2 foot girl. She wants to become a leading lady." And when I argued, she slapped me. I will never ever forget that slap, because that slap was the prison door which opened that door for me, and I just got locked inside. And I realized that I'm not worth it. I'm unwanted, unloved. I'll never be able to achieve anything in my life, and I'm like a black dot on my parents' head. All these negative thoughts, they made me become so depressed that I actually stopped going to college after I finished my school. I stopped going to college. I used to sit in my house in one dark corner just thinking of giving up. I just wanted to end my life, and I did try. I did try. I tried electrocuting myself, but somehow I think God had different plans. I got saved. But when I was going through that phase of my life, remember this thing always. Whenever you're going through a bad phase in your life, God always sends someone as a messenger. Sometimes we recognize them, sometimes we don't. But for me, it came in the guise of another teacher of mine. She came home to see me, and she shook me to reality, and she said that 100 rupee note, however much old it is, however dirty it is, it will always remain 100 rupee note, and you will always get 100 rupee change for it. So similarly, this society will break you, will do all kinds of things. But remember, if you know your value, if you understand what is your value in life, no one can take that value away. And she says the first thing to realize your value is accept yourself as you are. Love yourself first. Because if you don't love your own self, how do you expect people to love you? She said the first thing you do, you stand in front of the mirror morning. The first things you do is, oh, I'm so short, I'm so ugly, I'm so this. Who listens first? It is you, your own brain, who listens to it first. And if you don't respect your own self, how would your body respect you back? And she says, first thing you have to do in life is to find your value. And that made me realize that my height was a very small part of my personality. I had much more bigger things in my own self. So I changed my focus to what good I had. I realized I can speak well, I can act well, I can talk well, and I'm intelligent. And so once I changed my focus, there's a saying, when you change your vibrations in a certain manner, the entire world comes, the vibrations of the universe come to help you. And one day I was passing by on the road, and I saw this newspaper, employment news, with the headlines, Wanted Women in the Army. And I was scared to pick up that paper. I mean, it appeared glamorous. I never knew what nursing is, I never knew what army is, but it appeared very glamorous. So I picked it up and I just rushed through that advertisement, and I realized there was no height criteria. So I sat through that competitive exam, I sat through that written exam, I went through that medical board, and I did become a probationer nurse, and I was trained under Command Hospital, Air Force, Bangalore. And when I got commissioned, I realized I was the first MNS officer from Himachal Pradesh to be commissioned.
Wow.
And when I wore my uniform, and when I went back to my city and I wore my uniform, everybody who used to look down upon me actually saluted me. And I realized that day. And that teacher released me from that mental prison. And I'm sure all of us, somewhere or the other, are caught in that prison of ours, because society has made a box. If you fit in, you are perfect. And if you don't fit in, you are a misfit. Tell me, who has made this rule that a boy should wear blue, and a girl should wear pink, and a boy should play with a ball, and a girl should play with a doll? It's the society. But if you break that mold for the society, they have to accept you. And when I proved it to them, it does not matter what's between your head and your feet. What matters is what's between your head and your chin, and how you use it. So once I set that example, I never looked back in my life. But then once I got into nursing, I actually realized what a different profession it was. What I thought nursing was entirely different to what I witnessed. And I realized that there could be no noble profession than nursing. No noble profession than nursing. And when I was serving those people, though initially I didn't like it, because when you are in the army, or for that matter any kind of nursing, you start from the scratch. You have to do all kinds of things, maybe pack dead bodies, or maybe give them the last rites as you pack them and all. I was a little apprehensive about those. But as I continued to do it, I realized that I have gathered so much of blessings in my booty that I think I couldn't have ever done it in any other profession. And then I served, I did my midwifery from Army Hospital, Delhi Cant. I continued to serve for a year. And then I met my husband. Now, my husband is again a Mills and Boone story. He's a civilian, and he had met with an accident right opposite to a hospital, and he was rushed in there, and his whole leg was crushed under a truck. And then he stayed in the hospital for a very long time, and I was in charge of the officers' ward at that time. So that's how I got connected to him, and we realized that we are made for each other. But the thing was that since he was a civilian, I could not do my posting every 2 years, so I took release on marriage grounds. And but when I left the army, I was lost. I didn't know what else to do because that was a part of my life. And then I thought, what can I do? And suddenly it struck me that in the army we were taught manners, etiquette, how to sit, how to stand, how to eat on dining table, how to address people. So I realized these OLQs are something which are missing in the civil world. Girls of my own friend circle didn't have these kind of manners. So there the blueprint was made that this is something which I'll tell, this is something which I'll teach those people. And then I went ahead because what I learned in the army was very rigid, and I couldn't have used all those rules and regulations in the civil world. So I went to a Swiss engine finishing school. I did a certification and came back to India. And in around 1984, I started my own finishing school where I started teaching people how to sit, how to stand, how to talk, how to walk. And that's how I grew. And from there to the corporate, from corporates to pageants, from pageants to modeling, from modeling to films to television, it just grew. And here I am today in front of you. My journey started from a 4 feet 10 years old, completely a person who had given up in life, to where I'm today, known as a queen maker by most of the people, and being so glad that I gave Miss World 2017 to India, who's my student. So it's been a long journey, ma'am. It's been a great journey. But all along, I think whatever I am today, believe me, ma'am, I truly believe these are the blessings of all those people I served. Somewhere or the other, they have worked for me in my life, and I'm truly grateful to all my patients who'd ever been there, that they gave me a chance to serve them. Because now when I'm seeing those people, the corona warriors, I took a special class for Meteor Hospital very recently to encourage the corona warriors there. And I realized how much they are giving back to society, putting their own well being on one side. But I also realized that, not only are they serving, but somewhere or the other, they are also going through this lot of turmoil in their life, about what is happening, the uncertainty around us. But please remember, my dear fellow sisters, the amount of blessings you are earning is going to go a long way, a long, long way. And there's nothing better than serving people the way you are serving. In my time, we were only girl nurses, but now I see a lot of gentlemen have also entered into this profession. So I think we have become a wholesome to serve the people around us, and there can be nothing better than this, ma'am. So, and again, very, very thankful for having me on this platform and speak and encourage my fellow sisters that life can, there is no full stop. There's no full stop. If you really want to move ahead in life, there's not full stop. The only thing in life, you have to sometimes take a pause, which is very necessary. And when I took that pause, I could reframe the entire roadmap of my journey ahead in life. Yes, ma'am. Questions, ma'am, if you have anything
Yeah.
to ask me.
Thank you so much for that summary, Rita. That is really really impressive. I did not think that you are under five. I was telling them that you are short, maybe 5'1", 5'2". So when you said you are under five, I suddenly became your very close friend because I am under five. So I used to tell my story sometimes to my people, saying that I was always in front of the line all the time because I was the shortest. But I never had any misunderstanding that I'm the cutest. I never thought so. But I learned one thing, exactly as you mentioned, that it is very important that what is here, how do I look at things and how do I make my strength so strong that the weakness is hardly seen by people? You know, I think that's a very big lesson to have. And since you have been through so many different phases of life, I would just love to ask you one thing, that when it comes to being resilient during these tough times, it's very important that, one need to have the ability to remain resilient in the face of, adversities. So you have been in the army. Army is very well known for, tough times. And then, yes, in your own life, you have been through a lot of things. I'm sure that you told the story that it went on from one thing to the other, but it's not always a smooth journey. It's not that, you came out from army and everything started just like that. It is not like that. So, what would be your advice to all our sisters and brothers who are here? I mean, now there are brothers also in our audience who are male nurses. And so, what would be your advice to these young ladies and gentlemen who are here? And there are some seniors also. We'll come to the seniors in a while. The young nurses who are here, what would be your advice, that how to remain resilient? And while they are going day in and out to hospitals, worried about their own family, worried about their own safety, what would be your advice, that what can they do to remain resilient in the face of this
Okay, ma'am, one thing, yes, this adversity which has hit us at this moment is definitely of a bigger magnitude. But first, again, let me put my story and then I'll build it towards where we are going. That, as you said, that ups and downs come in life, and it did happen in my life as well. I will share from where I started this journey of being a resilient person and how I'm carrying it forward, and I'll give the advice to my friends. That a couple of years back, suddenly when I was teaching, I felt uneasy and I was rushed to the hospital, and an angiography was done, and they realized that three of my arteries were almost 99% blocked, and the main artery aorta was 99% blocked. And they said that I needed an immediate open heart bypass surgery. I'm not going to name the hospital, but I'll tell you what exactly happened. I went through an open heart bypass surgery, but it didn't go right. And while in the hospital itself, I landed up with secondary infection, and nothing was working. Nothing was working. And I mean, like, it appeared that I may not be able to come out of it. To top it all, I suddenly developed conjunctivitis in the hospital, and some wrong drops were put in my eyes, and I lost my vision. One eye, just 10% vision was left, and in another, just 30% vision was left. And it was like my balance had become bad. I couldn't sit because my stitches hadn't healed. I had nerve degeneration, as you call it. And it was still going through that when my husband, who was a partner with somebody in the company, had a fight, and we had to close down the company. And since I was not even insured, all the money was going down the drain in the hospital, and it was hand to mouth situation. Here I was fighting my life. I didn't know how to come out, and there was no way the money was coming in, and we were in a total bad shape. Just didn't know what to do, didn't know what to how to survive. And that was the time I realized, when adversity hits you, I think it is there to teach you a lesson. And if we actually learn that lesson, nothing in the life can actually stop us from moving ahead and face the more difficult and more difficult and more difficult situations. So I will tell all my fellow sisters this. I think the 8 P's I followed, and those are the 8 P's you have to follow in your life. If you follow those 8 P's, nothing will stop you. And right now, this bigger adversity we are facing, it appears we still don't know where is the end. Till the vaccine comes and that's all becomes successful, we don't know where is the end. Until then, as nursing warriors, as corona warriors, you are there, out there. And the worst is, it's an invisible warrior, an invisible war. You don't even can't even see that enemy from where it's going to come and hit you. We have absolutely no idea. And you need these resilient tips all the more, which I actually learned in those times and which I'm applying now as well. So, first and foremost, I will tell you the first thing you have to do to be really resilient is to accept the situation. Very important it is to accept, because we cannot fight it. It is there. First thing is to accept it, that yes, this is going to be there for some time. You know, so many people are still in denial. They think, oh, ye to flu hai, it will just pass. No, but we have to accept. And we also have to remember that there is uncertainty. We have no idea what is going to happen tomorrow. Now, I will like to tell you that uncertainty is very good. You will ask me why uncertainty is good. It's because, you know, if you go to an astrologer and he will look at your papers and he'll say, oh, you might have a accident in near future. All the time you're thinking about that accident. I hope it's not happening today. I hope it's not happening tomorrow. I hope it's not happening day after. You are so involved and focused on that accident, whether you like it or not, it happens. So if you don't know what is happening in future, very good. Whatever happened in the past, we cannot change, we cannot go back. So what do you have at the moment? You have only the present moment. So this is the moment. We don't know which way it is going. So best is to accept this moment and move on with it in the best way you can. Do whatever best you can in the situation. Don't avoid that responsibility or what has been told to you to do to combat the situation. Do whatever best you can in this situation, and whatever is not in your hand, surrender. Surrender. There is some power. There is some power which gets into the mother's womb and the child starts moving. There is some power which is in a person, suddenly it disappears and we say it's a dead body. Some energy, some power. Surrender. Whatever power is moving the earth will definitely move it. So, first thing you have to accept is that uncertainty is good. I live in the present moment, I accept it. Second, a lot of corona warriors have to stay back from the family. They have to stay away from the family, which is tough. Of course, it is very tough. You want to protect them, you don't want to be near them, and some of you are even quarantined in the hospital for a long time till you meet your family back again. So, when you miss your family, my second thing is that the whole world is your family. Why don't you give that love to your patients? To that gentleman who's there like your father, to that lady who's like your mother. Put all that love into them and see it will reflect back into your own family. As I said, blessings mean a lot. Do it once and see what a beautiful feeling you will get. Even those patients who are in the hospital can't meet their family. For them, you are the family. So, why don't we make this reunion of a complete family and give all the love you are missing to give to your family and these people who are missing from their own family, and get it out there? And then see this reunion between both of you is going to work wonders for your own positivity, for your own happiness, that you are giving something to someone. And there is something called karma. I will tell you a beautiful story to explain this. There was a man who stole a horse. Now, this horse was a derby horse. Now, derby is a game where a horse runs full throttle, and the horse who comes first has a prize of God knows how many lakhs. So, this thief, he stole a derby horse and he took him to that village, to his village, wherever he was, to sell it. Now, when he was standing to sell this horse, a lot of people came and asked him, how much is it? How much is it? So he was saying 20 lakhs, 20 lakhs. Because it was expensive, no one was buying. Eventually, somebody came in the evening and asked him, how much is this horse for? He said 20 lakhs. He said, what is there in this horse? 20 lakhs you're asking. What's so great in this horse? He said, it's a derby horse. He runs very fast. He said, how do I believe he runs fast? He said, sit on it and try. He runs very fast. So this guy who was the buyer sat on the horse and he wanted to try how fast this horse runs. So he did this and the horse ran. And he ran and ran and he disappeared from the eyes of this thief. And this thief kept waiting, okay, now he's going to come back with the horse, come back with the horse. And the horse never came back because this guy stole the horse and took it away. So when he came back empty handed to the villagers asked him, hey, have you sold your horse? Let's have a party, 20 lakhs. Did you sell your horse? He said, yes, I did. For how much? He says, for whatever I had purchased at the same cost I sold it. So it was he stole it and it got stolen. So there is something called a law of karma. Whether you believe it or not, the universe works with a lot of karma. So if you do good selflessly, it comes back to you. Maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, but it does come back to you. So always remember, whatever you sow, so shall you reap. And if you sow that happiness, that compassion, that empathy, that love, that service, it is going to come back to you when you actually need it. I was telling you about those P's. So the first P, which I am going to suggest to you, is patience. Life is like a wheel. It goes up and down, ups and down. So when they say the night is darkest, the day is about to dawn. So life is like a wheel. It turns. Night turns to day turns to night. The biggest, I would say, the biggest truth of life is it always changes. So this situation is not going to last forever. This will change. The only thing, we have to hold on to that rope. Have patience. Have patience. It's very important, because when you work with that patience and that hope, it will change, which will change. That's the truth. It will change. It will change. Maybe this time it's taking longer. And you know why this is taking longer? It's because we asked for it. Think, how many of you used to ask your own self, I wish I could work from home. I wish my husband was home all the time. I wish my children were home all the time. You know, we were wishing for it, and now that we have it, we are cribbing and crying about it. But remember, this too shall pass. So things don't happen to us, things happen for us. They are happening for us to build that resilience. And the first lesson is to accept it. Second is P for patience. The third thing which you need to accept and you need to move ahead is the pause. Take a pause. We need, if you feel burnt out, if you feel stressed out, if you feel completely lost in the situation, you need to take a pause. And how do you take a pause? Is to just move away from all this commotion, find a corner somewhere, just close your eyes, take a deep breath and go within. Just go within, take a deep breath. As we call it in a scientific language, just meditate, even if it's for 10 minutes. Just go within, be completely free of any thoughts, and then restart your thoughts later. Take that pause. That pause is going to give you clarity. What is to be done next? Because there is so much, the mind is never at rest. So much is going on, so much is going on, that you need clarity. You're completely lost. So if you can find time, either start your day with that 10 minutes of pause, or end your day with that 10 minutes of pause. So when you sleep, just take that little pause so that your mind becomes empty, and you get up in the morning with an empty thought. Third important thing which I would say you need to follow is to push. Now, I'm not saying push in this way. Push is called pray until something happens. Pray until something happens. Prayer has a lot of power. A lot of power. Whatever you believe in. I'm not saying any specific God. Whatever you believe in, even if you believe in your own power, just pray, push and pray that I've done my best. Everybody in the world is putting up their best. Now, please, Almighty, please the energy. I'm just praying that everything becomes all right. The whole world. And as you pray, they say when you pray, you use all these five fingers together. Now, a lot of people, even when I teach prayer, I tell them how to pray. So when you're praying, the nearest is your thumb, which is touching your body. So first thing is the one which is touching next to your body. So first thing is, when you pray for people who are nearest to you, your family, your loved one, pray for them. Then comes this finger. Now, this finger is the finger we use on people. He said this to me, he said that to me. Forgive them. This is the time for forgiveness. We don't know what tomorrow holds. So forgive them. Pray for them. God, keep them safe, keep them happy. Then comes this finger, which is the highest finger of our hand. Pray for people who you hold very high in your life, your gurus, your mentors, your teachers. Pray for them, that they continue to spread that positivity and the knowledge to people everywhere. Then comes this finger, very important for us nurses. This finger is the most delicate finger of a hand. So look at this finger and pray for those people who are helpless, who are suffering, who are delicate. Pray for their recovery, that everything becomes all right for them. And then comes this small finger, which is actually you. But you would realize by the time you've prayed for everyone, you've indirectly prayed for your own self, because they say when you pray for others, it bounces back all on back to you. So it's very important. Push, pray until something happens. Another thing which I would like to say is, have this um, um, perseverance, that thing that I have to put in whatever best I can, in whichever best way I can. You would see that you are serving in the hospital. There are a lot of people who are serving on the roads. Whichever way, selflessly, just put in your 100% and see that things will definitely make you happy. Because when you give, indirectly, it comes back to you. And there's nothing better than a Corona warrior, especially for those people who may not even see their families again. We are lucky. We are very lucky that you are the chosen one God has picked up. Not everybody gets a chance. Not everybody gets a chance to serve the world. But as nurses, I think we are the most blessed one, that God has, out of all the people, picked us to do this job. And I have seen it, those PP kids, and I've seen them bleeding from their faces when I see them, when I go to this hospital Meteor. And I've realized that not all superheroes wear aprons. Some nurses wear it too. So hats off to all of you for being there. And I'm sure these things which I'm telling you would definitely help you uh, uh, to to be more stronger in this situation. Because if you are the root on which the entire system is based. If the root is strong, the whole tree is going to be strong. And just don't feel burnt out. Don't feel give up. Don't even give up. And if you do, I think the best thing we can do is to talk to each other, because we are lucky to have seniors with us who are trained people who can help us to understand us. So don't keep things in your heart. In case you feel anything is bothering you, this is the time to open up and talk to someone, because definitely, like that teacher helped me, somebody else will come as a messiah to bring you out of this bad situation which you may be feeling as a burnout. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I had been listening to you so intensely, and I think this is the first time I heard this way of praying. And you know that I'm a Christian, and we do pray like this only. But I don't think anybody explained by finger. That's a beautiful way to push ourselves. And I will not forget this push from today. Pray until something happens. And
Yes.
I totally believe in that. And I totally agree with you that as nurses, the blessings that we get while you are a nurse, I'm also not an active nurse anymore. I'm doing different things, though I'm connected with nurses. I know that this is absolutely true that the more you are true to your profession, and I'm very sure that something is always blessing us and taking care of us. Even if I usually tell that if I see that 10 doors are closed against me, but I know for sure that there is a window that is open, I just have to keep my mind open, mind open to that particular window, believing that, God will open that window for me. And being in the present moment, I think absolutely right what you have told. So my next question, Rita, will be this: that you have been training, young people, like 17, 18, 19, like that. You are training them to go for the beauty pageant. So now, as a senior, I would like to know that when we are working with the current generation, what will be your advice, that when you are working with them, when you are supporting them, grooming them as a role model, what is it that we can keep in mind so that we can understand the generation better? Because usually the generation will tell, my son is 22, so he also reminds that, we are from a different world, not in so much explicit words, but this is what they tend to allude to when they're talking to you, that you don't understand us, we are from a different world. So you have been training them, grooming them to stand on world platforms and uh, talk confidently. So when you train them, Can you tell us that what is it that we as seniors we should keep in mind when we are handling young people?
Ma'am, unfortunately, today's generation, I call them the instant generation. Instant coffee, instant Maggie, Instagram. So, this instant generation believes in instant success, unfortunately. They believe, they want to do things instantly, everything should happen instantly. So, younger generation nowadays doesn't realize the value of hard work. They don't realize that even if success comes to them in one go, they will not be able to retain it. It's easy to find success, but it's very difficult to maintain it. And the maintenance will only come with life's experiences. And what are life's experiences? Life's experiences are that you walk and you fall, you walk and you fall. So the failures in life, they teach us a lot. So most of the students who come to me, they are so scared of failures. And why they're scared of failures? Because, as I said, that today's generation is more about show off. What if I fail? What will people think? What if I do this? What will people think? Unfortunately, they don't realize that it is their own life they have to work upon. The people he or she is thinking about is not going to come and feed you. You have to feed your own self. So, why bother about what people are thinking? Bother about what is your own self. So very important for today's generation to understand there is something called a goal. They are so lost with the materialistic world, with the things around us. As your son says that we are from a different generation, because they are in the from the world of show. So everything what they're seeing is the glamour in front, but they are not seeing what makes you to become that. So the value of hard work, the value of goal setting, that you have to first understand your own passion. What is it that you want in life? Because it's a cut, copy, paste world. Unfortunately, even kids when they do homework, they go on internet and they cut, copy, paste and submit their assignment. So where is the hard work? What they have to understand is that they cannot be a replica of someone else. We are all unique. We have our own pluses and minuses. So sit down, do a SWOT analysis, see what are my strengths, what am I good at, what should I do in life, and then set a goal in which direction I have to go. The first thing is that, I call it the steps of D. The first D is that you have to have that desire within you, that this is what I want, this is my passion, this is what I want to do. So stop looking around what others are doing, find your strength. So that is what I want to do in life. And now when you have decided this is what I want to do in life, comes another D. The first D was desire, comes another D, that is the door. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You cannot sit at home and expect everything to come spoon feed with you. You have to come out of your comfort zone. You have to take risk in life if you want to move ahead in life. You can't expect people to come and tell you or hold your hand. Maybe as parents, we can hold their hand and take them to the well, but they have to drink their own water. I remember one of the gyms where I go. There comes a boy, all maybe a VIP with four gunmen and two bouncers and somebody carrying his protein shake and somebody carrying his towel and all. But ultimately, he has to do his own push-ups. Those guys are not going to do his push-ups. So it
Yeah.
is our life. It's the journey of the child. He has to realize that he cannot cut, copy, paste. He will have to find his own way. So he has to take risk in life. He will fall. Doesn't matter. Just dust yourself and move. Be like a football. The harder you are thrown down, the faster you jump back. Don't be like a cricket ball that somebody throws you and then somebody has to come and pick you up. It's good to fall because that's the experience. So next time you'll be more careful. So the second thing is door. The third thing is the direction. It's very important to find in which direction I should go, because when you step out of your comfort zone, there'll be 10 different roads to achieve your goal. Shortcuts will be there, long cuts will be there. But always remember, if you take a shortcut, fine, as I said, you might reach your destination, but you might fall because you will not be able to be stable out there. So if you take a longer route, keep following, going there, you will be able to achieve everything with experience. So it's important. First thing is, now when you have to find a direction, kids today nowadays are so much under peer pressure that they may find a wrong route. So I always teach them, do a mama's test. Now what is a mama's test? That if you are lost in between two crossroads, should I go this way, should I go that way, do a mama test and think, if I walk this road, will my mom look up with pride or will she look down in shame? The answer will come straight to you. The moment you will see that picture of your mom looking down with shame, you know that's not the road I have to take. Your mind already knows which way to go, but we are lost. So this is the way to find that. So when you move in that direction, comes the next D, that is discipline. If you don't have discipline in life, if you do not divide your day properly, this is my study time, this is my play time, this is my friend time, you will never be able to find the right thing. So discipline is very important. Value of time is very important. Every second matters. Every second matters. A lot of students come to me today and they say, ma'am, I have no time. So I say, who says you don't have time? Get up half an hour early, sleep half an hour late, you have one hour extra. Find your time. You can find your time if you have the desire to. So discipline is the next step. Now with discipline is boring, I know it is very boring because it is a routine. So when you follow that routine, then a time will come when you'll want to give up. This is where you need another D, that is determination. Come what may, I have to do it. Nothing is going to stop me. So when you have this determination, you move ahead in life. Maybe a time will come when your body will give up, when your mind will give up, you'll feel burnt out. That is where you need another D, that is the drive. You need a motivation, somebody who has to push you. It could be in a form of a story, it could be a form of a coach, it could be a form of a mentor or a friend. So be with the people who will push you. Unless you don't find them, you're going to fall. So the drive comes, and then eventually you reach the final D, that is your destination. So walking on that path itself is quite a challenge for today's generation. But first thing you need to identify, it's very important to have a goal in life. My girls come to me, ma'am, I want to be a beauty queen. Okay, fine, you become a beauty queen. After that, what? Life is not going to stop at being a beauty queen. Then what? So if you want to be a beauty queen, what is beyond that? How do you use that crown to move ahead in life, to give back to society, to move in your own life ahead? So you have to have this goal, a plan in your life. And if you don't plan in your life, you plan to fail. That is very important. So this is how, ma'am, today's generation has to understand. They have to come out of that peer pressure thing, and they have to come out that instant mode to a maybe a brewing mode where the more you brew the coffee, the more tastier it is. So they have to understand this fact in life.
Thank you. That's a fantastic answer. And there's a saying that goes, magic always happens outside the comfort zone.
Yes, ma'am.
Magic cannot happen inside the comfort zone. And also, the saying goes that if you continue to do the same thing, you cannot expect different results.
Yes, ma'am.
You want different results, you need to do something different. So, before I go to the next question, I'm going to ask the audience if any one of them have anything to ask Ma'am Rita. You can unmute, come on the video, and ask the question. If anyone wants to have the question, we have in the chat box a lot of people appreciating and saying that nobody has explained something like this, and I wish all the nurses and others need to listen to this. I really hope, because the video will be available on YouTube as well as on the Facebook. It is being streamed live. Yes, I have seen, because I have been with nurses now for over 38 years. So I think the nursing overall, we need more nurses who look at life a little bit more in depth. I have a feeling that many of us live life in a very superficial manner. It's like, okay, I have a job, let me go for a job, I'll earn money, and I do that. So I can see that kind of a attitude in our young nurses. And so I think there is somewhere that that all the D that you told about, the desire, how much desire you have in you to give you that drive, that you still want to do things. because I know that you have gone beyond, and you, with all this, I did not know about your CABG and your complications. I was not aware. When I'm hearing that story, then I'm telling myself, oh, my little problems here and there is nothing when it compared to your setback that you have had and your eye problem. Hats off to you. I mean, you really have bounced back like, rising from the ashes, they call it, so it takes a lot of, grit, lot of courage to come out of that and still, fight and make things happen the way that you are determined to do. Nobody can be a copy paste of somebody else. I know that for sure. So before I
And
move
and,
to
and
the next,
sorry, and I just wanted to add, ma'am, and things which you can't change, accept them. Some
exactly.
things which you can't change, accept them. Like I said, my 10% vision here, 30% vision here. um, I used to even get this what is called photophobia initially, when there were corneal ulcers in my eye,
Oh.
and somehow they got healed. But when I tried laser surgery, it didn't work. I tried contact lenses, it didn't work, because even the contact lenses used to become distorted when they used to put in my eyes. So I've learned to live with it. None of my students actually know. I'm just sharing it on this platform, ma'am. I've never shared it to anyone. No one knows that it's only 10% here and 30% here. But I have learned to live with it. I've learned to live with it. This pain has not healed till today. As they say, with sometimes, 1 in 1,000 people, when the nerves don't go back to the same track, they
Hmm.
don't join, reunite together, and it is always painful. So from the leg where they took out the vein, it's still as painful. If you touch it, I can scream. Same with my chest. But I have learned to accept it. As they say, things you cannot change, might as well accept it. So there's a very nice prayer. God grant me the I've forgotten how it goes. The God grant me the serenity to accept the
Accept
things which
things.
I can or I cannot change. There's a beautiful thing. So there's not every time in life that life will move exactly according to you, but life will move according to how it's destined to be. But if you give up, if I would have given up after my heart surgery and all, I would be, I don't know where I would be. But right immediately I came back home. I sat, when I went to my I was training at the college. I managed to go there, stand with that pain, give that class, and slowly my body got used to it. I don't even think about it. So this is how we have to accept what happens and put in our best, and always be grateful. At least my hands are working, my feet are working, you know, everything else is working. So what if something has taken away from me? Be grateful. There are people on the roads who don't even have legs, people who can't see, people who can't hear. At least we have everything going. So what if little thing is gone? It's still there. So be grateful for what we have. Gratitude is very important, especially in this time when you see so much of suffering around you. So instead of cribbing and crying, I don't have this, I don't have that, be grateful. People don't even have families. We are with families. They are there to look after us. We have our family with us. So if you count little blessings in life, now you will never ever complain about what life is giving you. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I think an attitude of gratitude is a big way of managing life in difficult times. Because if we can see the glass half full rather than half empty, it's an attitude, right?
I will say, ma'am, I don't see the glass half or I don't see the glass full. I'm
Oh,
happy, at least I have a glass.
that's a beautiful way of reinterpreting the same thing. Yeah, I'm grateful that I have a glass. Okay, coming back to all our audience here, that I would like to ask if any one of you would like to ask. Already, Ma'am Manju has come on
Yeah.
the video, and I was very sure that you're going to ask definitely something. Uh,
Yeah.
Please introduce
Good
yourself,
evening,
and
Manju,
then
ma'am.
Yeah.
can
Good
definitely
evening.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Dr. Manju Chugani. I'm former dean of School of Nursing Sciences, Allied Health, Jamia Hamdard,
Good
and
evening, ma'am.
yeah, it was heartening to hear you actually, and I would like to ask you that what we face with our students' lack of confidence, because of English in nursing, most of the people who are coming in private colleges like us, they do not have background of English, and that makes them like not confident of what they are doing. They are very good in their work, they are extremely gentle at heart, but they feel less confident because of this English. And even in India, if this is a cause or factor for lack of confidence, I always feel how to overcome this.
Ma'am, frankly, English is a language which the spoken English has to be learnt. We learn grammar and everything in school. So what I normally suggest, I also face a lot of students, but in my pageantry, it's not a barrier, because internationally when girls go, there are people from all over the world who don't know English, and there are translators who can translate for them. But I can understand, in nursing, it's very important to know English, because if you speak in your language, that's again a big barrier. And I faced it when I was a patient, when girls used to speak in Tamil and Malayalam in front of me and laugh or whatever, crack a joke, and I used to think they are laughing at me. I used to take it so personally, and I used to feel very bad why they're talking in their own language. And then later I realized it's because they were not comfortable in English. For that, ma'am, the only thing they can do is that what my girls also do is to read the newspaper every day, and pick out some words which they think are the words which can be used in everyday life, and use those words. Let's say I pick up 2 words per day, nothing big, just 2 words per day of English which I
Right,
can use in my daily life. And then you
right.
start implementing it throughout the day, 100 times use those words in various sentences, so that it
Yeah,
becomes a part of you, but they should be easy words.
yeah,
So carry a news, and reading is the most important thing. The more you read, the more you improve your English. So I
right.
remember, ma'am, even there was a time when I wasn't very comfortable in English language,
Hmm.
though I am from a convent school, but I had no confidence to speak. So there was this little novel which was written by Enid Blyton, which little kids read. Enid Blyton.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I had picked up a book. I still remember the name. It was called Naughty Amelia Jane. It was a
Hmm.
story of a doll, and I
Hmm.
read it. And when I finished that book, I felt great. And then
Oh,
I started, those little sentences I started using. Then from that complete Enid Blyton series, I finished. Then I went into higher and higher reading.
yeah.
Reading. If you just look behind me, ma'am, I have more than
Hi.
4,000
More. Yeah.
Reading is very important.
Right.
The more you read, the better you will feel. And then underline the words or the sentences which you think are important or inspiring you. Pick up one sentence, one word every day, use it. So if you use it every day, in a whole year, you have 365 new words in your vocabulary. And
What
when
an
you use them,
interpretation. I must
yes,
admire. I must admire
and,
first.
and
Yeah.
we have to do it, ma'am. And that's the only way, because
Yeah.
no one, this is a language which is self learned. And what
Right.
people will teach you is the grammar, but how
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you talk is more important. Talking is more important. For a patient to understand you is more important.
Right.
So if
Right.
you pick up these little sentences every day, I'm sure by the end of the year you will have enough confidence to speak. And if you feel that, okay, I don't
Yeah.
want to pick up these words, look for everyday sentences which you are using in nursing.
Yeah.
You have any pain, how do you feel? And then words like, wow, excellent, nice to see you, look bright today, you look healthier today. So pick up these words which you can use in nursing. Start,
Yeah.
but use them, and also learn the right pronunciation, because sometimes if we don't pronounce the word right,
Right.
it might appear something else and can create a double
True.
meaning. So
True.
we have
True.
to be careful about that. And
Yeah.
also your expressions, voice modulation, because if you're
Yeah.
saying something happy, look happy.
Yeah.
Ma'am,
That's right.
I've trained a lot of hospitals. I'm the official grooming expert for Columbia Asia Pan India. I've trained Fortis Hospital Pan Delhi, Apollo
Mm-hmm.
Hospital, Rajiv Gandhi Cancer
Oh.
Hospital, Dharamshila, a whole lot of hospitals I train in grooming. So when I go and train these nurses, the most important thing are the everyday words like good morning, good afternoon, good evening, have a good day. Okay, how are
Yeah.
you feeling today? Excellent to
Yeah.
see you. And they don't even say that. And I faced them when I was a patient. And the
Right.
worst was, ma'am, the worst was, I didn't know at that time because I said I've forgotten half the nursing. Uh, Midnight, I was sound asleep. Midnight, somebody comes, puts on the light, pulls my arm like this, and shoves a needle touch perpendicular like this to take some blood. Ma'am, I can't tell you, I had no idea what I thought. In my times, I had never seen a syringe go
Yeah.
perpendicular like that. And it's
Yeah.
later I got to know it was the arterial blood they were taking out or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's
but
deep. Yeah.
I needed explanation. Somebody
Yeah.
tell me what it is,
Yeah.
because I will never forget that experience.
True.
And then
But
when they were taking those wires out of my rib cage, when they
yeah.
removed my stitches, nobody told me what they're going to do. I thought they're just going to do my bandage,
ECG.
everything.
Bang.
But suddenly they ripped out that wire, and the kind of pain. I wish they had prepared me before that.
True.
So it's very important to understand this language, even if you can't at least explain it with the actions what you're doing. But please
Right.
don't speak to in front of patients in their own language, because
True.
I have faced it and I felt very bad thinking
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
laughing at me, ma'am.
True.
And this is
True.
what I want to teach, that learning English is important, even if you learn everyday sentences. Please do it consciously. It will take you a long way. The feedback that patient will give for you will definitely take you ahead in life. Means a
And
lot.
365 words is a crux of your suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
65 words will make you a
Yeah.
expert in
Yes.
communication.
Yes. So confident. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank you, Manju ma'am, and thank you, Rita. I think apart from the vocabulary building, the one thing that came out very strong is something very close to my heart is speaking to patients, explaining what you are going to do. And communication is probably the fulcrum on which the entire healthcare is, rotating. Communication, it is very, very important. And unless and until we know the language the patient and the family is speaking, there's no way you can communicate. And what you have explained, I will not say it is exaggeration, because I have also seen that. I've seen nurses, and doctors, all healthcare workers, they think they do it every day. So they think that it is routine for a patient. It is not routine for a patient. So patient
In
needs to
fact,
be.
two things, ma'am. In fact, another thing which is very important for us nurses is to understand the culture of the patient,
Yes.
because sometimes we don't realize that what is the culture of the patient, and what are the things they would want us to do for them. Maybe if it's a
Yeah.
dead body and you're sending it to mortuary, they may want the hands to be placed in certain way. Maybe
Yeah.
they want to do a certain kind of a prayer in certain way. Maybe they are from a Islamic culture where they want to do namaz at certain times, and they don't want any procedures at that certain time. So it's important to, it's a whole gamut of things which we have to be aware of. Empathy is extremely important with a patient. And as I told you, ma'am, I was in the hospital for more than a month, and I can actually tell you hundreds of things which I saw every day. And I always do to make note that when I train, I'm going to tell them this. So I had a whole list. And I tried my best when I came out to tell them that these are the things I've faced on the other side. So as a nurse, these are the things we have to implement. And ma'am, one of them, when you said, is even saying good morning, or okay, I'm going off duty and so is going to look after you now.
Yeah.
Because I have seen this girl in the morning, and now I ring the bell in the afternoon, somebody else comes. So I look at her total new face and I say, where is that girl who was there in the, oh, she's gone off duty. At least if she could have come and told me that, ma'am, you call this lady, or she will come look after you, or she's the one who's going to look after you, I would have been more mentally prepared that somebody else is there.
Yeah.
So these are little things, I think they matter a lot, ma'am.
They are little things, but they're very important for from the patient's point of view. So we have somebody here. I don't know. It is coming as iPad. They asked me, "Hi, Tankam, want to comment?" Yes. Feel free to comment, please. I don't know who is that. There is no name. Who is that? Please, you can comment.
Tangam, that's me, Usha Banerjee.
Ah, your name was in there. I hope Rita Usha Banerjee is also ex-army.
I heard that, ma'am, when I was backstage. but
Ah,
probably ma'am doesn't know me. Ma'am, I'm
Uh,
from Command Hospital Air Force 1977 batch.
oh, wow. Miss Ritz, I must compliment you for this mesmerizing 1 plus hour that you have spoken straight from your heart. I'm sorry I'm not
Thank you,
coming
ma'am.
on a video because I'm a little down and under right now, and I
Ma'am,
think you could hear that in my
I
nasal twang.
can. Yes, ma'am.
Uh, at the outset, I think I really congratulate Tangam for bringing everyone together and trying to do as much as she can as a social cause to the profession. And I think that's yet another amazing lady we have. And I think a couple of others who have hooked on today to this conference. So to begin, I think I really salute you for the purpose, the
Thank you.
grit, the courage, the passion, the positivity, and the celebration of life you bring in.
Thank you.
I think it's a complete resilience story, a lovely bounce back, someone who's a dreamer, a chaser, someone who can never be cowed down from what she is aspiring to do. And so much happening around you laterally. And that positivity is shown on your beautiful, lovely, graceful face.
Thank you.
And I know you're as beautiful as you are from the inside, and that radiates on the outside. So at you've touched our hearts, and I'm telling you this, you really touched our hearts.
Thank you, ma'am.
uh, I'm also from the same alma mater, and I have a firm belief and conviction that the foundation and the architecture the army services has laid down will always keep the alma mater of the military nursing flying very high. And I see that lovely photograph behind you standing there on your shelf with great pride.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's something
Ma'am,
which will, sorry.
sorry to have interrupted, ma'am. I'm extremely proud. The biggest, I think, proudest moment is that just last year, the MNS came up with the coffee table book of 100 years of MNS, and they have covered me as their civilian stafflet. So I think that is the most, the biggest prize I can ever find in my life. So,
Oh,
as you said, ma'am,
I think you deserve
nothing
much
better
more,
than
and
thank you,
congratulations. Well,
thank you,
I
ma'am.
think you beautifully brought out the prayer part of it, and I'd seen this long back when I was going through some videos of Mother Teresa, where she had spoken about the 5 finger prayer, where you use the thumb to pray for your family and friends. You use your uh, pointing finger because to your teachers because they point the way, and the tallest finger for the leaders who rule your country, and the weakest finger being the the ring finger, because it can't move without the support of the others, and the little finger which has to be you at the end. So I think I use that for my prayer, and I know it helps. And I'm sure today a lot of them are going to take that back home, and that's something which is going to be instilled into people's lives from you. uh,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
you wonderfully brought in the power of thought and words, and I've always said this: the power of your thoughts will become your words will become your habits will then become your character, and your character then will become your destiny. So, and then that's so visible in the way you've journeyed through your life. So for me,
Thank you,
the
ma'am.
little things that you told today, those small little things, they are very profound. They're very profound. So you've not only taught
Thank you.
a little bit of how to be a good nurse, but you've also left behind how to be a good human and how to celebrate life. So I'm sure just these few hours of yours is going to touch a lot of lives, and a lot of people will be transformed today.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'm sure you're going to leave a little behind of yourself in everybody's heart forever. So
Thank you, ma'am.
that's all I want to say. And I just want to thank Tangam and the rest of them. And thank you so much for being here for us today. I'm sure your message has been very, very valuable for
Thank
all
you.
of us.
Thank you,
Thanks,
ma'am.
Atan. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
ma'am.
thank
much.
you.
I have, ma'am, Thamka, ma'am, I have two more messages to give. to my fellow.
Definitely. Please go ahead.
You said how to remain resilient at this time. So this is my most important message. What are we, when we are facing this adversity at this time, what is one big thing which is coming in our mind? We call it fear. Fear. We are all afraid. We are all fearful. What is future going to hold? I will give you a small example and I will tell you how to overcome this fear in life. Imagine I'm giving you a lemon, a very fresh lemon in your hand, and I'm telling you just smell it. So just pretend to smell it. You smell a very nice, pungent, citry smell of this fresh lemon. Now I'm asking you to cut that lemon. So you cut this lemon, and a few drops of that citrus juice come towards your, you just smell them. Just smell that. And now I'm asking you to take that half piece of lemon which you have in your hand, just squeeze that on your tongue. Just and feel that tangy citrus juice on your tongue. Now, as you're doing it, I can imagine all of you are salivating, right? You're all salivating with that. Now, what does this prove? This proves that human brain does not differentiate what is real and what is false. Whatever you tell your brain, it'll take it as reality. You just told your brain that, okay, you're squeezing. It was a false thing. You took it as reality. Whatever you tell your brain, it looks at it as reality because it does not differentiate between fake and between real. I remember when I was a little girl, I used to watch a lot of these James Bond movies, and at night I used to get up in a nightmare as if there's a war happening, this happening, because my brain took it as reality. So brain cannot differentiate between fake and real. If you cut the word fear, what does it say? False evidence appears real. It's not
That's a
there.
nice one.
You have created it in your brain. It is not there. So if I tell my brain, everything is fine, all is good, I'm going to make it, world's going to be a beautiful place again, blah, 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 brain is going to take it as reality. But you keep saying, what will happen to my family, what if this happens? So you are creating that entire thing in your brain, and brain is taking it as reality. The actions from your body will come accordingly, actions around the universe will come accordingly, everything will go down the drain. But if you have those positive words coming your way, and how do you do it? Just put them everywhere. Put them on your mobile, put them on your car, put them on your wall, everywhere. All is well. Everything is going to be fine. This is past. This too shall pass. Blah, blah, blah. Put all these positive words around it and keep looking at them the whole day. The brain will take it as reality. When it comes at reality, your body will react accordingly and the whole environment will change, because then we call it mass karma. Everybody together thinks positively, everything becomes positive. So false evidence appears real. Always remember, the fear is a man-made world by all those people who don't want others to go ahead in life. So they put this word fear in your brain, and so you stay back. It's a man-made word. So if you remove this word, there's it's a win-win situation all over. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid. Don't even think there is anything which will happen, because what you think eventually will happen. What they say, there's a saying in Hindi, man ke hare haar hai, man ke jeete jeet. Whatever you think, if you think you are a loser, you are a loser. If you think you are a winner, you will be a winner. So why
Yeah.
tell your brain something which is not even there? Don't
Yes.
create it.
Thank
that
you.
is that is very important to understand, because fear is just a false evidence. It is not there at all. and
I
and
totally
the
agree with you.
second message, ma'am, which I want to tell everyone in this room who's here, is that through a story, that there was a mother who was sitting on a chair, okay, and it was a high chair, and the mother was doing embroidery. So this mother is sitting on a high chair and she's doing embroidery, and her little child was playing on the floor, and mother is doing embroidery. So when the child looked up, he looked at the embroidery from the bottom. So when he saw some jumbled up, threads. He couldn't understand what is it. So the child asked his mother, Mom, what are you making? So the mother said, I'm making a beautiful flower, but I can't see it because he's looking at it from the bottom. So mother said, wait, I will show it to you once I complete it. And she got busy again. So the child played for some time. Again, he looked up, all the more jumbled threads. So he asked his mom again, Mom, what are you making? She says, I'm making a beautiful flower, but I can't see it. She says, wait, have patience. Let me finish, then I'll show you. And then eventually she completed, turned around and showed the flower. It was a beautiful multicolored flower. Now, what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is the God sitting up there is doing some embroidery. And we are all looking at the embroidery from the bottom. And every day we ask him, what are you making of our lives? What are you doing with my life? What does he say? I'm making a beautiful flower. Have patience. Let me finish, then I'll show it to you. And one fine day, when he turns around and he shows it to you, you realize what a beautiful flower he was making. If this didn't happen, that won't happen. If that didn't happen, this won't happen. So always have patience. If things are not working out, maybe he has better plan, but he definitely has a plan, and he will reveal it to you at the right place at the right time. So wait it out, it will come to you. So that's my second message, to stay
Profound.
strong in the situation.
Profound message, Rita. That's really, really motivating. And they are, I think I totally resonate with you. And as Usha told in her very powerful way, that, a lot of people are going to go from here with good messages for them to practice, starting from the five finger prayer. And so I have something that I tell God when I have problems. I usually tell them, guys, I usually tell God, I don't know how big is the problem. I really can't handle it. You better handle it. That's my dialogue with the God. I say, I just leave it to you. I have a bigger God, then the problem is not that big. So he will definitely do that. That's how I relate to your story. And on my mirror, on my dressing table mirror, there's a writing which I've written with lipstick. It is called I am enough. I am enough. I see that almost every day. It kind of gives me courage to say that, I can face and I can do the things that I would like to move forward with. Now, before I say bye, we already have crossed 1 hour and 15 minutes. One last, advice from you on the lighter note. Now, with all the masking and other things happening, obviously the use of lipstick has grossly come down because you don't want to wear lipstick. But I was thinking the other day that sometimes, you are going to remove your lipstick when remove your mask when you have social distancing is already maintained. Sometimes you want to remove, or you are in a restaurant. So somebody was joking, what do we do now? Half the lipstick will go in the mask, and when you remove, it may look all smudged. What are we going to do now? You are in that beauty world. Do you have any tip for that? That's
Yes,
totally different from the very philosophical and in-depth discussion we had on facing adversities and being resilient. That's most important. And since you have come on our show, I can't resist asking this practical tip also.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, nowadays, if you check out these brands like Lakme and all, they have come up with a lipstick which is called non-transfer lipsticks. Smudge
Oh,
proof,
okay.
non-transfer lipsticks. They are matte, they don't shine. So you just put a layer of that. As it is, once it dries up, it will stay for 9 to 10 hours. Whether you have water, whether it just rubs onto your mask, nothing is going to happen. So
Okay.
non-transfer lipstick, and these are smudge-proof lipsticks. So always look around for non-transfer lipstick. They come in a liquid form, so you just apply them, wait, they will just completely dry up and they will become the color of your lips. So anything you do, because to remove them is also a problem, you would need maybe some cream on cotton wool to just rub it and remove it, because it will not go out easily. So you are going to be groomed and with that lipstick throughout the day, whether you wear a mask or whether you don't wear a mask. So that is one tip I can leave with you. Go for a
Okay.
non-transfer lipstick, and you
Okay.
find them in Lakme. It's called 9 to 5, and most of
Okay.
the brands make it. So if you specifically ask for a non-transfer lipstick, you will find them in the market. And since you can't see this, the only thing people will see is your eyes. So do a little, learn little eye makeup, just do a little bit of kajal and look little more, more expressive, because since people can't see your lips, your eyes will talk. So of course, don't look like models with those glittery eyeshadows. That's what not I'm suggesting. But just put a little maybe kajal and let your eyes speak if you like it. It's not a necessity. But if you really want to make your eyes speak and you think that your lips are not talking, eyes will talk, maybe a little bit of kajal will do, or a little bit of mascara will do. A bit of a grooming is necessary for our nurses, because when a patient sees a bright face around them, it just makes them happy. But if they see a very dull face, a lost face, so somehow as it is they're dull. But if they see a bright face, say hi, good morning, and with that smile and that bright face, it peps them up. So grooming is very important. And so if you can't do this, do that, but do something. But do something, just don't be there absolutely bare.
I
Yes.
understand. I remember one patient telling me कि मैम हम तो है दुखी लेकिन आपकी जो नर्स आ रही है छोटी सी वो महादुखी है. There was a totally different story, but the way he expressed it, he was telling exactly what you are saying. They want to
Yes,
see
ma'am.
faces because
I
we are
want to add. I want to add one more thing here, ma'am. A lot of nurses. This is again what something I teach the girls, the nurses who I deal with, is that do you know what is the real purpose of uniform? When I ask them, they'll come up with uniformity, this, that, that. But you know what? Your uniform is like a light switch. The moment you're in the uniform, you switch on your professional mode. Forget about your personal life. Whatever is happening is beyond this uniform. And the moment you're out of your uniform, you are in your personal life. So you think about whatever you want to think in your personal life. So take this uniform as a light switch, on off, between your profession and between your personal life. If you follow that formula, don't carry your personal life to your professional life and your professional life to your personal life. If you keep them separate, you'll always remain happy. So because we carry a lot of our personal stuff to the office, that's why हम इतने दुखी दिखते हैं. So we should not look दुखी, because if we are in that mode, we are in that mode. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so finally, a word to our brothers who are here because they also wear mask. So when they have to remove, I think they also should pay attention to their grooming, right? Because a lot of
Yes, ma'am.
men I have seen that because they are not able to go to the barber shop or get a person to groom their hair or whatever, so they are kind of looking little unkept sometimes.
Yes.
So I am not in hospital, so I am not able to comment on that much, but I have seen people outside when I meet them. And what would you advise them from a grooming point of view?
Yes, ma'am. The only thing is, of course, parlors are closed and they are unable to groom themselves. If they're growing their hair, best is to tie up your hair. Please don't let it fall on your face. So if you tie it up as it is, it looks little groomed. And as far as your beard and all is concerned, if you can't cut it, at least you can groom it. So just put it in place and soften your this thing so that it looks little more neater. And most important, as I said, when you remove your mask, the worst thing is those chapped lips you see in between those hair, very chapped lips. So one tip I can give you is that, if in between that hair we find some nice lips to talk to, at least it looks nice. So take a toothbrush when you're brushing your teeth in the morning. Just use that brush softly on your lips as well. So all the dead skin comes out. Your lips look a little pinker. And if you have a groomed beard and you have a tied hair, you will definitely pass off in your grooming test. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Rita Gangwani. Let me take your full name. And I can't say how grateful we all are. And thank you so much, Madam Manju Chugani and Captain Usha Banerjee for chipping in and, asking question and reiterating what Rita had told, and I think those who have actually not been here, I think they lost a lot. But anyway, the video recording is going to be available on our YouTube. I'll try to put it up. Usually Zoom gives a recording in few hours time. So after that, I'll put it up on our YouTube channel. But on the Facebook, it is already there running. So I'm sure that those who are here, they are going to go and tell others what they missed. Okay, that's what happens in life. Opportunity comes once, and this particular opportunity is gone. Yeah. So thank you so much for all the people who have been here. Thank you very much for coming to this session. Wanted to keep it for an hour, but it's 8:25. Thanks a lot, Rita.
Ma'am, please, before you go, I have one
I'm
last
not
message.
going. I will
One last-
first ask you to go, and then only I will.
One last message. One
Yes.
last message for all the seniors who are out there. Age is just a number. Age is just a number, man-made number. It's all in you. I just wanted to tell you during this lockdown, I won this crown, Miss Queen Universe. So it just does not matter your age. It's how you look at yourself. We are always forever young at heart. So never ever
Yes.
let your age stop you from achieving your dreams. Whatever you want to do, just find time to do it. Put in your heart, throw your heart from the wall on the other side, and you will definitely go to the other side. So that was my last message.
Thank you so much, Rita. It was wonderful session, and I'm very sure that I will be going back and looking at this recording once in a while to get myself also motivated.
Thank
And
you.
200% I am with you. I always tell that age is just a number, because my son keeps reminding me sometimes that how old I am, not to go out. He says, Mama, Corona is there because you're over this age. I'm 61, by the way. So he keeps telling, Mama, you are above 60, you should be careful. I said, 61 hoga tera jo bhi hai, but for me it is just a number.
Ulta
So
karo, 16 at heart. 16 at heart. I'm
exactly.
same age as you, ma'am. Same age as
Oh, wow, that makes me even more motivated. Huh? When you stand on your heels, I keep thinking, oh my God, I should also stand on my heels once in a while. I am not able to stand on, at least not on pencil heels. I can be on the platform, but not on pencil heels. But I can see her standing on pencil heels also. I keep admiring all that. May God bless you, Rita. Continue to do. We have not even discussed what philanthropy she does. She does a lot of, charity work, which is in her profile. So I think she absolutely lives her life totally the way she wants to live and impacting lot of lives. And thank you for coming here and also sharing your experience and influencing all the people who have come here, and those who have not come here. I'm sure they are all going to watch you on the video, and this is going to be there. It's not going to go down anyway. It is there on the YouTube channel, so people will go back and look at, and I'm sure Madam Manju is going to tell all the students, go and watch this, 365 words. Don't miss that. Yeah. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much, and God bless you and wish you all the very best.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
We will
Thank
keep
you
in
for
touch.
having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hi, Tangam.
Thanks, Usha. Thank you, Madam Manju. Thank you, everybody else. Thanks, Madhavi. You're also there. Thank you. Thank you very much, and take care.
Thank you, Tangam. It was lovely. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.